Thank you to our sponsors for today's video, Nokian Tyres, Amber, InfyPower, and StarCharge. Nokian Tyres is a leader in safety and sustainability. Maximize performance and efficiency with their made-in-USA all-season tires and their dedicated Hakkapeliitta EV winter line from the inventor of the winter tire. Learn more at nokiantires.com/EV. Also, our sponsor Amber offers a modern extended warranty for your Tesla's battery and more without the burden of long-term contracts or upfront payments. Check out the link in the description below to browse their plan options and get started with a free over-the-air diagnostic check. InfyPower is the largest EV charger module provider with over 3 million power modules running reliably worldwide. Their latest G2 collection features ultra-high power density and efficiency for EV charging and energy storage integration. InfyPower, innovation for your power. And StarCharge, the largest EV charging manufacturer in the world, and is also a provider of residential and commercial battery storage, as well as microgrid solutions. Hello and welcome to another Out of Spec Reviews video, and welcome to another 10% challenge. This is where we simulate to show how well an electric car can do on a road trip. We test the full range of a vehicle in our 70-mile-per-hour highway tests. We then test the full charging performance of the vehicle in our charging analysis videos. But this video brings it all together. It brings together the high-speed charging and high-speed driving into one test to show really a real-world experience as to how far you can expect to go in between charging stops. And today it is the big boy, the Porsche Taycan. This is the big battery rear drive aero wheel Taycan. It is the best specification for this test. And in fact, yesterday's video on this channel, I ran another big boy in the best specification for road tripping. That was the Lucid Air Grand Touring. And in fact, we ran both vehicles on the same day, at the same time, to eliminate any sort of outside variables in between the tests. A lot of people who are shopping for an electric car to take on trips and use really as a long-distance machine are looking at Lucid Air Grand Touring or Taycan. And well, today it's the Taycan's turn to take on the 10% challenge. So coming up in this video, Ryan is actually going to head out. You saw him in the Lucid video pulling up in this car. We're just shooting the intro here back at the hub. But essentially, Ryan's going to head out in the Taycan and perform the 10% challenge. I'm going to walk you through the spec of the car, the testing procedures, and then Ryan will jump in and take you on the exact drive, which is, I guess let's talk about the Taycan. So this is the 2025 Taycan. It is the refresh, what they call the PA, or J1.2. It's the .2 of the J1 platform, and it means that it's got all new updated stuff, and it's just an absolute monster. We've actually put about 10,000 miles or so on this particular car, maybe just under, and I've been so impressed with the consistency of charging performance, and it does 320 plus kilowatts almost at every single charging stop. It's absolutely incredible how much power this thing takes in peak, but also holds it deep in the pack. And this is where it's really interesting to see the Taycan thing versus the Lucid thing, because no question, we already know through our charge testing, this car charges and can add way more energy than the Lucid can. You're going to see that coming up during Ryan's charging experience, but this thing won't come off 300 kilowatts or so until about 65%, which means on a road trip, you can charge this thing deep and go relatively far distances in between chargers. More than the Lucid, though, I guess we're going to find out. We've already run another Taycan in this test, another J1.2 Taycan with this battery pack that's roughly 97-ish kilowatt hour usable. And that car is currently the chart topper. That was the wagon version with the dual motor all-wheel drive. I think it did 158 miles. The Lucid did 154. But the conditions where we ran this car and the Lucid were actually not far off where I did that Sport Turismo, to be honest. It was a chillier night when I did the Sport Turismo, but still not as great conditions as always. So this is why we ran the Taycan and the Lucid on the same day at the same time to really see the differences between the cars. So what is the test? The test is we're going to take this car to the Electrify America charging station where we run the 10% challenges. We're going to get it preconditioned and we're going to plug in the car as soon as it dips from 11 to 10% state of charge. We're going to log what we call the handshake time. That's the amount of time it takes from when the charger is plugged in to when the contactors click and energy starts flowing. And then once energy starts flowing, we will charge for exactly 15 minutes of high power, full DC charging performance into the vehicle, maximum capability. And then we will unplug, set the climate control. By the way, we do run climate control while charging. It's actually more of a thermal stress test than it is an extra load. A lot of vehicles will share the cooling package between the cabin and the battery. And by running climate control, we sometimes get cars to thermal derate a little bit early. And so that's why part of our procedure is to run climate control through the entire test, because it just stresses the cars even more. And on a road trip, which this is meant to simulate, you probably want to sit in your car while it's charging for 15 minutes, or you leave a dog in the car. You just want the cabin to stay cool or warm, depending on if it's summer or winter. Therefore, climate control always stays on for this test. We will then jump out on the highway and drive 80 miles an hour up and back, and we will try and end as close to the charger as possible to counteract any elevation and as much wind as possible. I think you guys know the drill by now if you're a viewer of this channel. But certainly, based off of the 4S results on the Taycan, I think we can imagine this is going to do really well. I'm not sure you guys are ready for how well it actually is going to do. So join us for the Porsche Taycan 10% challenge here in the perfect road tripping specification.
Like we just mentioned, we're all set to go, 10% state of charge. The battery's been preconditioned. And we do have a guest, so hopefully we'll get our full charging speeds, and we'll know very quickly, so shouldn't be a problem. And one thing I do want to tell you that I will be doing is in the drive modes, I'm going to go into Sport Plus mode while we are charging, and only while we're charging. And that's going to do just one thing for us, and that will make sure all of the cooling systems are running full blast. That'll help ensure that we get the maximum charging speeds possible. It'll use all of the power that it can, and the cooling systems on here are top notch, so hopefully we won't see any deratings of any sort. So with that, let's go ahead, pull on in and start charging. All right, we're all staged up. Gonna open up the charger flap. Third tries a charm. Okay, there we go, and there's the DC pins. And I'm going to go ahead, activate the charger, get my watch out, and time the handshake, and get everything all set. You'll join very shortly. We are plugged in. I heard a click on the charger. And if we take a look inside, you can see 10%. Had a little bit of a problem with my iPhone storage being full, but immediately ramped up to 295 kilowatts, so everything's going perfectly as planned. Like I mentioned, Sport Plus, so we've got everything running as hard as possible. 292. These are crazy speeds, and we can see the temperature is right in the middle, so doing great there. And it might be a little hard to tell, but on the screen it says we're pulling 298 kilowatts. It's been 3 minutes, 16 kilowatt hours. That's crazy. One thing of note with this 2025 Taycan is that the energy going into the battery is a flat curve. It's always going to get 400 amps. And then the car will request a little bit more in order to run all the fans, compressors, all that stuff to make sure the battery is cooled. So any amount over what it's getting to the battery is just going straight into the cooling. So it's not like we're losing anything by having these compressors running. And we've done, wow, that was 26 kilowatt hours in 5 minutes. That is nutty. Just past 51% state of charge. Still doing 311 kilowatts. Incredible. Just hit 10 minutes, and right when it hit that, it was 50 kilowatt hours, which is a good result for 15 minutes. And we're still pulling 289 kilowatts, so another 5 minutes. Looking at the in-car display, we can see that the temperature is pretty hot, 123 Fahrenheit. It's at the top of the acceptable range, which is good because typically it should be coming off taper very, very soon. 12 minutes in, 67%, and it dropped down to 270 kilowatts, which is still very, very, very fast. We've dropped down to just 213 now. $70.9 kilowatt hours. Wow, incredible. That's a serious feat. All right, 77% state of charge. We can go ahead and, let's see, go into here and reset our trip computer. And hop on over into range mode. And we can get going. Just joined the highway, accelerating up to 80 miles an hour. It'll actually be 81 miles an hour indicated, as that is 80 miles per hour GPS speed. So we can go ahead and lock it in at 81. There we go. And now I can sit back and relax for a very long time. Heading over to I-80 here. I'll be coming off cruise control for the exit very shortly, and we've already gone 92 miles. We still have 45%, so 35% to go. And route planner says that we should get there with about 7%. It is behind that, but 7%. And of course, what we're going to do now is just a gentle deceleration using regenerative brakes, and try to get as much energy back into the battery. And then when we turn around, it'll be a nice gentle acceleration, minimizing any losses. So let's go ahead and get that done. We're 2 hours in. We have gone 153 miles. We're at 22% state of charge, meaning we have 12% left to go. And I have the charger in as a destination. And when I turned around, it said that we would have 8%, and it's gone up a bit. So we'll go a little bit past the charger and come on back. So no problems here. 175 miles and still 7% to go. I don't think we're going to make it quite to 200, but I think it'll be close. There it is, 193 miles, nearly 200 miles, 2.5 hours of driving, and an indicated 2.9 miles per kilowatt hour. Holy tamale, that is a heck of a result. So let's go ahead and see how that looks with, in comparison with everything else that we've tested. Wow. Okay, let's first review our testing conditions. If you watched our Lucid 10% Challenge video, which we posted just before this might sound a little bit familiar, but essentially we had both a Lucid Air Grand Touring and this Porsche Taycan at the same place, same time. We wanted to test them and compare them directly, so we ran this test so that we ran them back to back, right next to each other. So these results are directly comparable. The unfortunate side to that is the testing conditions were not ideal on that night. It was pretty chilly. It was in the high 40s, low 50s temperature-wise. There was a little bit of wind, and there were even a couple miles of damp roads. So all that is to say, I think that both of those vehicles could have gone a little bit further, a few more miles with better conditions. But regardless, let's go ahead and take a look at our data. Now, let's talk about charging. This thing's a monster. I saw a maximum of 317 kilowatts, and it held almost 300 kilowatts from 10% all the way to just about 67%, over 12 minutes delivering about 300 kilowatts. I do want to mention that it seemed like we may have been just a few kilowatts short of the true maximum. Especially when we looked at the in-vehicle display, we would typically expect to see 300-ish kilowatts, and we saw closer to 290 to 295-ish. Ultimately, I really don't think this mattered at all because the total amount of energy delivered was 70.9 kilowatt hours. Kyle previously did a 10% challenge with a Taycan out in Europe, and in that test, it only delivered 67.6 kilowatt hours. When I compared this with our 0 to 100 charging test, which I also retested, by the way, the 10% charging curve had a slightly lower peak, like I was just mentioning, but it held that peak for a longer period of time, and I think that few extra kilowatts probably would have only caused the battery's temperature to increase more quickly, leading to thermal throttling and a very similar result. Either way, I think that this was a really great charging session and representative of the new Taycan's capabilities, and it's just next level. It is by far the most energy delivered in our 10% challenge, as long as we ignore the other Taycan we tested. The second most energy delivered is the Lucid we tested on that same night. It delivered 54.2 kilowatt hours. That's a huge gap, over 16 kilowatt hours difference. I'd like to mention that I think the Taycan is pretty well optimized for our 10% challenge. Now, what do I mean by that? I basically am saying that charging speeds on the Taycan fall pretty significantly after you reach 80%, and in this 10% challenge, we charged up to 77%. This means if you were to stay like an extra, 5 or 10 minutes, you're not going to have a huge benefit. Of course, yes, you'll be able to go a little bit further, but it's not worth waiting for it. A 15-minute charging stop is really all you'll need with this new Taycan. The flip side of that is that you don't have the same flexibility that you would in a car with much longer range. Take the Lucid, for example. You could potentially stay at a charger for 20 or 30 plus minutes and go considerably further than you did on a 15-minute stop. Let's move on to efficiency. The car indicated 2.9 miles per kilowatt hour compared to the about 3.1 miles per kilowatt hour that the Lucid reported. That's a pretty solid efficiency, but nothing exceptional or noteworthy. We often calculate our 10% challenge efficiency by dividing the miles driven by energy delivered. In this calculation, the Taycan achieved 2.7 miles per kilowatt hour. That's better than a BMW i5 or the previous generation Porsche Taycan. It is just a bit behind the Ioniq 6 SE and the Mercedes EQS 450 Plus. The Lucid did even better than that. So again, solid efficiency, but it's not that impressive, especially when you compare it to other sedans. Now, when you put insane charging with solid efficiency together, you're going to have a predictable result, and it tops the leaderboards. 193 miles is absolutely crazy. It was an honest 2.5 hours of driving at 80 miles an hour in cold temperatures, and honestly, the Taycan could absolutely do 200 miles with more favorable weather conditions. The Taycan went almost 40 miles further when compared to the second place Lucid Air that we tested in the same place, the same time, same weather conditions. That is a notable difference. This Taycan dethroned our previous road trip champion. Long live the new king. In all seriousness, I think this is a really mind-blowing result, and we're starting to get to a point, at least I think, where charging an EV won't feel all that different from filling up a gas tank. I'm excited to hear what you guys think about this, and I'll see you all on the next one. Thanks for watching.